Is this your first time?
Welcome to the Ingathering Service. How exciting to start our church here and see so many familiar faces. As we begin, we would like to acknowledge that this service is being held by a community that gathers on the stolen traditional lands of the Massachusetts, Nipmuc, Pawtucket, and Wampanoag people. We pay respect to elders who lost their lives in the colonization of this land and recognize that this Indigenous tribes are still today facing violations of sovereignty, territory, and water. We also give thanks for the earth we walk upon, the waters, the life-giving plants, and all the earth's creatures, as well as the winds, sun, moon, and stars. We recognize this is just a first step in moving toward right relationship with Native peoples and healing of the earth. Well, good morning. Woo! Oh, and welcome to First Parish Church of Stowe and Acton. As you know, it's FPC to our members and friends, a welcoming and spiritual community. My name is Sharon Brownfield, and I serve as president of the Board of Trustees. If this is your first time with us, we welcome you. Our minister and staff are listed on the front of the order of service, and you saw pictures of them going through. Please feel free to ask me or any of these people for more information about the church and its programs after the service, or by email, or at our coffee hour, or through the chat if you're online. We also invite you to check out our webpage for news and information, and you can also sign up there for our newsletter and email alerts. We do ask that people remain masked in our sanctuary, except in the balcony. Yay! And in church offices and RE spaces. But the rest of our building is mask optional. Please check with people you're talking to about their comfort levels, and please make sure the air filters are on when you congregate in any room. After the service, please join us for our first coffee hour and conversation in our fellowship hall, which is one level down at the other end of our building, or in a breakout room if you're joining us online. Today at coffee hour in the building, there will be a display on our memorial garden, which so much work has been done, and parents and children are invited right after the service to visit the RE classrooms and see where classes are held, and which will begin next week. Online at 8:45 is our monthly spiritual conversations through poetry. And as you can see in our order of service, we have a lot going on. So please check and look through that for more details. But in particular, I'd like to invite you to our annual ice cream social you saw up there, where we're going to our local ice cream stand, Erickson's, today at 3. And next weekend, we have our yard sale, the 17th. There is still time to rent your table. We are eager to receive unloved treasures worth $2 or more for the FPC table. We'll send out more announcements of that after church regarding drop-off times and when we need volunteers. You can contact me or Ellen Kissinger about renting a table, and it's not too late, or Pat Sorn or Susan Avery about donating and volunteering. Lastly, our famous apple pies are coming back and is beginning, and there's lots of details in your order of service. So now I'd like you all to invite you to take a moment and greet your neighbor. Offside participants, please use the chat.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
And who else is here? Hi, Helen.
Hi, I'm here.
I see that. Good.
Our Introit is given to us from the language of the Ojibwe, and it says, "Water, we love you, water, we respect you." Our anthem later says in Lakota, "Water is life." As we welcome water today, we offer these songs that have been gifted for us to sing by the indigenous peoples of this land.
Good morning. It's good to see you all today. Our opening words are from the Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti, minister of the Ann Arbor UU congregation. Between rocking the boat and sitting down, between stirring things up and peacefully going along, we find ourselves here in community, each called from many different paths, many different life paths, many different journeys onto this river road. Some of us are here because rocking of the boat has been too much tumult, too much uncertainty, too much pain. Some of us are here with questions about where the boat is going, how best to steer it, where this journey ends. Others are here as lovers of the journey, lovers of life itself. Here, in front, behind, beside, each a passenger, each a captain, doing the best we can. Rest here in your boat with me, the river calls. Listen to how I flow, the sound of life coursing all around you. Let the current hold you. Let the current guide you. The river that gently flows through your soul whispers, "Come, let us worship." Now I light our chalice with these words. Actually, Brad will light our chalice as I say these words. We light our chalice this morning, symbol of our faith, as we come together on the brink of this new church year. Our chalice is a symbol of our quest for the light of knowledge as children, youth, and adults start a new school year, and that of warmth and bright love we find in community. May this chalice serve as a beacon, calling us forward into greater love, justice, and community. Please rise now in body or in spirit and join in our opening hymn and then our covenant and affirmation. And please join in our covenant and affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So a church like ours does many things. You can come on up, it's okay. With many different points of connection. We offer small ministries, small group ministries, music ensembles, adult programming, meditation, spiritual practices, art offerings, and more. But the heart of our church experience is still Sunday morning, worship and religious education. And a big part of what we do here on Sunday mornings is dedicate ourselves to the nurture and growth of our children. Religious education is something we don't all see here in the sanctuary every week. Much of it happens out of our view, downstairs and in classrooms. But week after week, we have a whole team of volunteers that go with our children, dedicated to this singular task of religious education. And because this is such a vital and important role, when we have a new religious professional in the role, the head of our RE program, it's important to pause for a moment and acknowledge this, to dedicate ourselves to working with and supporting our new staff person, and to charge them with the leadership that we are handing to them. We recognized in Marissa enormous potential and possibility, gifts and strengths, and so we are delighted to welcome her today into this new role on our team. So I wanted to tell you a little bit, because you may be wondering why the title is now Acting Director of Religious Education. So let me explain. After a long tenure of someone in a full-time role like minister or religious educator, we often have an interim. An interim comes for 1 or 2 or 3 years and then leaves and is charged with specific tasks related to transition to make the way smoother for the person who follows and to help the congregation determine how they want to change and what they're looking for. With Marissa, we wanted an interim after Michelle's long tenure, but we also didn't want to limit ourselves to not keeping her in this role if it worked out for both her and for us. So that's why we've titled it Acting, in recognition that for this year and next year, we want to have that interim focus on transition, but we're leaving our options a bit more open for the future. So at this time, I would like you to turn to that responsive reading in your order of service, and we're going to formally welcome Marissa into this role. Sharon. Can I take my mask? Yeah.
We at First Parish Church of Stowe and Acton welcome you into a new role in our community this morning. You have come to worship, play, work, and grow among us. Ours is a free faith. We have no creeds, and I invite you to join with us in this religious search for meaning and purpose in life, informed by your individual beliefs and the traditions of Unitarian Universalists.
You have agreed to join the staff of this church in a new role. This morning, I invite you to celebrate that commitment in worship and in our other activities. In this gathering, we lift up our voices in shared song. We bring ourselves before the holy in silence and in speech. We search together for meaning and truth in life and we share the joys and sorrows of our lives with one another. Working here means being part of this gathered community, speaking out for the future of our congregation, offering and receiving the gifts of the Spirit, supporting others and being supported in return. If you will join with us in this mission and work, please say, I will. And now will the congregation please rise and respond with the words printed in your order of service. We receive you.
As you join us, we once again renew our own commitment to this religious community. We are proud and happy to have you among us. Welcome.
With rejoicing! Woo! Yes, applause is appropriate. And you may be seated. So, for the past few years, since my arrival, we've been marking the beginning of our church year with a special recognition that education is an important thing in the lives of our young ones in this congregation, and in the lives of many of our older ones as well. We spend our lives, a lot of our lives when we are young and sometimes older, sometimes well into our 20s and 30s, like in my case, pursuing education. And each year comes with change, with challenge, with worries and fears, with joys and sorrows, with excitement and anticipation. And so we've been offering to our children and our other scholars a little token of blessing for them to take with them, to give our love, the love of this community, to go with our students as they begin their education year. But before we do that, because this is also the beginning of our religious education year, as well as the beginning of the school year, I'd like to invite Marissa to say some words about this year's RE program, which begins next Sunday.
Yes, we're so excited to begin RE classes next Sunday. We're going to have 2 classes that will meet downstairs. That is our pre-K through 1st grade class and our 2nd grade through 5th grade class. So that will be in the lower fellowship hall. And then for the junior youth group, we have, we're offering RE classes every Sunday in the Crossing Paths curriculum, which is similar to Neighboring Faith, a study of world religions. And for our senior youth group, we have high school discussion group that meets 1 to 2 times a month on Sundays during RE time. And we also will be offering coming of age, so you can join us next week for an info session on coming of age. So children and youth will start in the sanctuary during worship and then follow the lantern to go down to RE classes.
Thanks, Marissa. And now I'd like to invite all the students in this congregation to come forward and receive a little token of blessing. I call this the blessing of the backpacks, but of course not everybody uses a backpack, so you don't have to have one with you today. And if you're wondering, like when I say all of our students, does this include me because you're like a college student and an adult? The answer is yes. Yes, it does. If you want one, come on forward. Okay, Marissa has the basket right behind her. You can come get one from her.
You guys can walk this way once you get it.
Oh, yeah. We'll work that. Hi. May these tokens be symbols of our love and support to go with these children, students, and all those in our community who invest their time and energy and dedication in the work of education. May they carry with them throughout their year our values of diversity, love, education, and tolerance. Now I invite the whole congregation to repeat these words of blessing back as I share them. May you grow in wisdom.
May you grow in wisdom.
May you grow in peace.
May you grow in peace.
May you grow in love.
May you grow in love.
All right, you may be seated. Did you get one? Okay. You can be seated. Yeah. Yeah. And now we're going to install our religious education teachers. And I'm going to go up to the pulpit and unmask for this portion so you can all come up in front right here.
So this includes all of our RE teachers and also volunteers if you plan to help out regularly with a social group like Club UU, Junior Youth, Senior Youth. Even if you're not teaching RE this semester, but you're teaching in the winter or spring, come on up.
Come on forward, all the RE volunteers. Now, I know that's going to be half the congregation. The pews empty out. And if the congregation can turn to that other responsive reading in your order of service. We come together here today to install our religious education volunteers for this year and to celebrate the beginning of another year of being a learning community in our living tradition, where we learn and celebrate our Unitarian Universalist faith, our Jewish and Christian heritage, world religions, and the work of social justice.
We recognize the importance of each of you who volunteer in our program and honor you for sharing your time and talents with our children and youth, knowing that their lives will be enriched by the time that you spend with them. Here, our children and youth will learn our liberal religious heritage and about the ways that we interact with the world with love and justice and compassion.
Parents, please join with me. We come today with trust and joy as our children and youth take their next steps on their religious education roadmap with you. We pledge to respect you, learn from you, and have fun with you.
Opportunity to share our passions, our faith, our heritage, and our living tradition with the next generation, encouraging wonder and defending our universe for its love and justice.
And would the congregation rise in body or in spirit and join in the words printed in your order of service? We pledge to be teachers and learners along with you
as we create this beloved community. In gratitude, trust, respect, and support, we commission you as our religious education teachers for this year.
With great rejoicing! Thank you again to our many volunteers. And as you return to your seat, let me say that our plate is shared this month with Open Table of Maynard, which provides food and sometimes other support as well to people in the surrounding community. They've been our partners and are grateful for our support for these many years. And so for the work of that organization and for the good work that this church does in keeping our doors open and serving the community as well, we will now gratefully receive the gifts of the congregation.
As the choir is coming up, I just want to say again that this next piece is in Lakota, and it was inspired by the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and all the tribes, nations, native and non-native people coming together to protect the land and water threatened by construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline. And so this song is in reflection of that and reaction to that, and the words, the Lakota words, Mini Wichoni, mean water is life, and Mitakuye Oyasin mean all my relations.
All my relations come, every nation come, all my relations under the sun. We are one, we are praying, come, we are praying, come, we are the song and we are the drum, we are one, we are the river, come, we are Every nation come, all my relations under the sun, we are one.
On the first Sunday after Labor Day, in many UU churches, something is celebrated called water communion on the first Sunday after Labor Day in many UU churches. The water ceremony or water communion began as a deep ritual created in the 1980s in the feminist movement in East Lansing within UUism, and then it spread throughout our whole association. In most places, people bring water from where they have been over the summer and pour it into a common bowl, symbolizing how all the waters of the world are part of the living water together. Carolyn McDade, who wrote the hymn Spirit of Life, and Lucille Shuck Longview, who was active in the Boston Women's Health Cooperative and contributed to the book Our Bodies, Ourselves, were asked to create a ritual that connected people to each other and to all the planet and all life. And they titled this Coming Home, Like Rivers to the Sea. So it's appropriate that we symbolize with the symbol of water coming home like rivers to the sea each year. Over time, however, that bringing waters from all the different parts of the world became something of a travel narrative, and it lost its depth of connection, how we are all connected through living water and how water is a symbol of life. So some churches like this stopped celebrating it because it became such a travel narrative. So the past few years, I've been reimagining the water ritual with you. We've reshaped its form, and we're going to continue to do so today. Today, instead of pouring water, I invite you to come forward during a time of joys and then a time of sorrows and paint with water on these two tablets on the altar. If you paint in the corners a small symbol symbolizing your joy or your sorrow or our connection, briefly share a word or two about your joy or sorrow as you do so. Now, these don't dry or erase immediately, so you can draw in each corner and you can overlap with other people's, and that's okay. As our waters and our symbols run together, it's a part of that symbol of all life being connected and all water running together to the sea. As we begin, I do want to note that we have a special piece of our service today that is time sensitive, in that we have been honoring the 11th hour of the climate crisis at the 11th hour on the 11th day of every month for several months now. And so when our clock is about 5 to 11, we're going to interrupt wherever we are in the service and do that 11th hour bell ringing. So I beg your forgiveness and your patience as we restructure the service around that at that moment. And that is also one of the reasons why we want to keep things brief, and because we have such a packed after service time with our first in-person coffee hour, religious education volunteer orientation, and we want you to have time to go home and get lunch before ice cream and Erickson's. So let's begin by singing the first verse of I've Got Peace Like a River. Rise in body or in spirit, or remain seated. Please be seated. I forgot to say that if you can't think of a symbol that goes with your joy or sorrow, I encourage a circle for the circle of community, or a wave for the connection of all water, or a heart for the love in your heart. So now we have in our community times of joy. The waters of joy and love are the rain puddle, the babbling brook, the joy like a fountain. I call forward the waters of joy. Please sing Joy Like a Fountain, rise in body or in spirit. And now Rick Lent to tell you about the 11th hour climate action.
So many of you joined us for our service a couple of weeks ago. We talked about climate dreams, climate concerns. Every month for now a year, on the 11th day at the 11th hour, we have rung our bell, sometimes for 11 minutes, usually. This time we'll only ring it 11 times so we can get back in here and finish the service. And that's to signify the fact that we are at the 11th hour for the climate. And we really have to do all we can to save our planet. So I invite you all to get up and join us. I should explain before we do this. Concord does this. Lexington does this. Churches throughout the Commonwealth do it. There's a number of churches in Boston of many different denominations that join us in doing it. Some of them even do it at 11 o'clock at night, but we're not going there. So anyways, we're going to recognize the fact that we're at the 11th hour for the climate. When the clock rings very soon, I see 2 minutes to go. We'll follow that with 11 rings. Jeff will be on the bell rope. And we have signs. Anyone who wants to come down, join us, hold a sign, either on the front steps. There may be some people down in the street. We're often joined by people from the town. I don't know who'll be out there today. It'll only last a few minutes, and then we'll be back and pick up with our service. Sorry for this brief interruption from our sponsor, the Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And I should say you're welcome to go watch from the foyer or the front of the church. If you stay in the sanctuary, Hector is going to have a laptop out there, so you'll see it happening in here. So that way you have options. And then we'll conclude with sharing our sorrows right after that. So brief interlude, we've got 2 minutes before the bell rings, but that's not enough time to do all the sorrows. So we're just going to take a brief intermission. Please now join in singing Tears Like the Raindrops. Spirit of life, we hold in our hearts today these many joys and sorrows that we've heard together. May they flow like the rivers into the stream of the one common humanity's consciousness, that they are held together by our love, by our care, by our connection to one another. Blessed be. Amen. Please join in singing, I Got Strength Like a Mountain.
I got strength like a mountain. I got strength like a mountain. I got strength like a mountain in my soul. I got strength like a mountain. I got strength like a mountain. I got strength like a mountain.
You can stay standing because it's our closing hymn. This is Blue Boat Home. Should we sing all the verses or just the last one, Brad? All the verses? All the verses you want? All right, let's sing all the verses. This is like my favorite hymn. I know I say that about all the hymns, but... Right after this, come on.
Only I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still I run and sing. I can sailing all my life.
Go ahead and be seated for just a second because we want to give you a little announcement about what's happening next. Not just coffee hour and Memorial Garden information there and an ice cream social at 3, but also
we want to invite all children and youth to head downstairs with your parents to see your classroom. So if you're 6th grade and up, go just one level down to the vestry where the youth room and vestry classroom is. And if you are 5th grade and under, you can go all the way downstairs to the lower fellowship hall and meet your teachers and the other families. And then all RE volunteers come meet us in the vestry at 11:30 for the orientation. And there is childcare for 5th grade and under. You would just stay right downstairs in the lower fellowship hall. And if you are a middle schooler and your parents are in the orientation, you can go to the youth room and hang out there.
these words of benediction are by Cale Rice. It starts with a drop, then a trickle, a burble, a rush of water, burbling towards its destination, and finally the wide, endless sea. All rivers run to the sea. Today you shared your lives with a symbol of water, and though our experiences have differed, these waters mingle, signifying our common humanity. Today you came and shared in the sacred community. May you depart this sacred space, hearts filled with hope for new beginnings, a fresh start. Go forth, but return to this community where rivers of tears may be shed, where dry souls are watered, where your joy bubbles and your life cup overflows, where deep in your spirit you have found in this place a home. All rivers run to the sea.
We